Next up is our featured presenter for the night. We've been looking to get Faith Elizabeth on our stage for many months. I reached out to her. She blocked my name. Thank you, Curtis, for doing that. But we've got her. I used Rachel's web name and we got hold of her, and now she's in. Thank you very much. Faith is a pediatric nurse. Chet, where are you? There you go. Nurse, right here. Small fingers. Poet, author, and pre-law student. So if things don't go right, she can sue herself for, you know how it works. Ladies and gentlemen, slam poet, Faith Elizabeth.
So yeah, as Jeff said, I'm a pediatric nurse. I'm a legal assistant for an immigration outreach center, and also a slam poet, and a full-time student because who needs sleep? Stardust is actually the first place I ever did anything poetry related. Back about almost, I think, a year and a half ago when Jade Bradley did his There Will Be Verse type competitions here. That was my first time. So Stardust is really, it's cool to feature here because this is the first place I came and spoke at an open mic, outside of like the awkward community college open mics. I often get asked sort of how I get ideas for my poems and also how I write them so quickly, because I have a habit of sort of writing them right before I go on stage, just to like psych everybody else out. Sort of poetry is a way I kind of use poetry to marry with my prose. I had a creative writing professor who told me my prose was too poetic and my poetry was too prosy. But what I tend to do to write, besides just cannibalizing really good parts from short stories, is to write poems about specific things that I just have a lot of feelings about. We're poets, we have feelings. I'm a Cancer, I have lots of feelings. So I tend to write about either daddy issues, work, or school. And it works really well. So I'm going to do that in sort of in that order, which is daddy issues, work, and school. I usually don't write about work because I'm a pediatric nurse. I do work with terminally ill, typically patients. So sometimes writing's a nice escape from poetry. It's nice to like talk about Donald Trump because that's like not my job and it's a lot easier and we can all hate him together. It's nice. So, yeah, this first poem is my daddy issue poem. So, thanks, dads, making poets out of everybody. Yeah.
They're good for something.
Yeah. It's been 20 years since I went to the circus, and the only thing I remember is the lion tamer. She stands ramrod straight, planted like a battle flag in the middle of the cage. Her body is an upraised middle finger to the tacky safari outfit that covers it. Whip coiled around one arm, chin up, shoulders squared like she's balancing a chip on each one. She grins wide, as if she doesn't know that her teeth are for smiling but the lion's are for gnashing. She looks them straight in the eye, the way my science teacher says mammals are not supposed to. The lions sit, but are not still. The tightly bound energy thrums beneath their skin like the spring coil of a loaded pistol, itching for trigger's touch. They could sink their teeth into her flesh so deep she couldn't turn away without tearing the skeleton right out of her. I do not believe in God. I'm 13 years old, but already fancy myself a scientist. I don't see magic when I look up in the night sky, just burning balls of gas and infinite emptiness. But when she unfurls her whip, snaps it harmlessly above their head, uses the power in her voice and the knives in her eyes to make a million years of snarling evolution sit back on its haunches, I can only look up and thank whoever might be listening. See, my father is a lion, and it's not safe to meet his gaze, so I learned to read his mood in the set of his jaw. Learn when it's safe to cross the savannah, when his lips are wrapped around the bottleneck of some other prey. The pride lands of my home built me for flight, not fight. When male lions are not well fed and well fucked, they will eat the cubs in order to make females more receptive to their desires. See, my mother was a lion too. I watched her starve beneath the weight of her own sacrifice. Her body was his diversion, providing carcass she was always last to eat from. I'm no hunter. I'm not a predator. I'm not seeking a kill. I don't want to hurt anyone. It's just when you can't help but love something dangerous, you just want to know how to exist in the same space without being afraid all the time. Maybe that's why I only remember the lion tamer, not the ringmaster or the clowns. While I've seen enough man-made destruction for the human cannonball to seem like oxymoron, Why the hot wire act loses its novelty when you've been walking tightropes your entire life. I want to touch her like bravery is contagious, like the miracle of osmosis can channel her into me till the whips grow from my arms till I stand 10 feet tall, till I answer his hunger with jump through that fucking hoop. When the show is over, I approach. I ask how she stopped being afraid. She says she didn't. That fear and love and courage can coexist seamlessly within the confines of the human heart. She asked if I'm okay. Do I feel safe at home? Do I need to talk to an adult? The epiphanies coagulate on the tip of my tongue. Truth batters the backs of my teeth when I am finally given a chance to escape. Instinct triggers the only kind of strong the savannah teaches little girls to be. But little girls growing up in houses with beasts on the prowl, who are not brave enough to be lion tamers, not ruthless enough to be lions, can only become unbreakable cages for their secrets.
Yeah.
So now, like, the mood is like totally there and awesome and bright. This next poem is sort of one of the few that I talk about really anything nursing related. Like I said, I really try to stay away from my job. But it's sort of one of the more positive outcomes I have. Like I said, I work with primarily terminally ill patients or patients that are not supposed to get better, and sometimes they do get better, and that's awesome. So I was able to actually write a poem about a patient of mine that I had. It's not really a title, it's just called the ASL poem. So. By the time she turns 3, it becomes clear Alondra will not talk. It's not for lack of wanting. The words burn deep inside her like a million pressurized tons of liquid hot magma with the power to explode mountains if they could just find a way out. Nothing about her is common. Not her brilliance, not the way she holds her crayon, so delicate, so graceful, as if each finger was a tiny ballerina. Not even her bones, which do not grow in the way human bones are supposed to. Her hips, her rib cage, her spine twist and curl like wispy plumes of smoke on a breeze. Her jaw is a sleeping flower, too small for the tiny bud of voice to bloom inside, but her mind is clear as cloudless sky, wise beyond the years they said she would never grow into. So when Alondra turns 3 and still cannot talk, we begin using American Sign Language. Eat, sleep, color, play, her hands wrap around these words with all the ease of a tongue she never knew to miss. The speech pathologist tells us to prioritize, to start with the signs most important to little girls for navigating this world. Alondra is 3 and just finding her voice, but I know the other children are too, and when they see her uncommon body, their innocent mouths will spit at her the poison their parents injected. So I teach her sheep in wolf's clothing. They'll call her broken, so I teach her grow like the roots of a tree, anchoring a body that defies expectations. They'll call her crooked, so I teach her curve. Your spine curves like violin bow, like arc of rainbow, like laughing mouth, like hilltop. We roll down from without worrying about grass stains on our jeans. I do not teach her miracle. It's the word the doctors use to describe her stubborn survival. The same doctors who said, don't bother teaching that girl anything. She won't live long enough for it to matter anyways. With the same tongue, the same tone, I imagine men like him used to say, don't bother teaching that girl to read or vote or grow too big and bright and loud. I do not teach her miracle. I teach her girl flies, girl tames beast, girl spits fire. I don't teach her dream. I teach her tomorrow. I don't teach her hope. I teach her push. I don't teach her maybe. I teach her yes. But to snap a wrist so it can only mean you bet your goddamn ass. The world will already teach her shame in there. Hey baby, smile for me. Don't be a bitch. You'd be pretty if you just know. I teach her no, stop, my body, my choice, mine. I teach her sorry. But only when she's directly hurt someone, never as a way to start sentences. Little girls are always taught to apologize at the start of their sentences. I cannot yet explain that as a woman, she will be judged both for what she is and what she is not. So I teach her always beautiful. The speech pathologist asked me why I do not teach the sign for voice. I tell him we don't need to teach little girls the sign for voice until we teach them how to use it. And this last one is, so like I said, I'm a full-time student. I'm kind of a non-traditional student because I'm not 19, and everyone at UCF is 19. I'm only 33, but in UCF years, I'm a dinosaur. School is another place where sometimes I get inspiration because you're not allowed to choke the shit out of 19-year-olds, but you can write poetry spitefully about them. So I recently returned from Europe. I was there on a scholarship. I was able to spend, a few months there just like going to Oktoberfest and like drinking a lot. But really, it was interesting being there as a 32-year-old with 19-year-olds. Again, I was a scholarship student. They were all like rich kids and trust fund babies. So it was a cool experience. So again, not to murder them because that's totally not cool in Europe either. I just wrote like poems about them. So. Margaret is the nicest person in my study abroad program. Margaret's gone abroad 6 times, circled the globe, hiked the tallest mountain in every country in Europe. She says, as she gazes out from the cliffs of Austria, if everyone could be here in this moment and know such beauty, there would be no war. Up here, you can smell the ozone, you can touch the sun and swear you can tame it. Margaret says maybe she'll stay here forever. I cannot afford to stay here forever. I look out and see only empty sky, and I know I must soon return to where life actually happens, below the horizon, slumming at its sea level. Margaret is very nice, but I am not. Margaret says it's so progressive that you give scholarships to people like me so they can afford to study with people like her. Margaret says I'm too loud. But Margaret has never had to fight to be heard. Margaret doesn't understand why everyone's so outraged. He said he was drinking, he said he's sorry, and you should see Brock Turner's breaststroke. Margaret doesn't see color or gender or sexuality. I know that because she starts her sentences with, I'm not a sexist or racist or bigot, but Margaret says to respect her opinion, wraps it around her like a warm blanket, erects her First Amendment rights big and bright and proud as a burning cross. Margaret turns off the TV during those Sarah McLachlan sad pet commercials because she just wants to watch Gilmore Girls in peace without being confronted by all that suffering. Margaret prefers not to think about it because Margaret can afford not to think about it. See, her daddy's a federal judge and the government's pockets are deeper than darkness. Margaret says people need to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps because she's never been barefoot, never grew calluses from naked feet slapping on hot asphalt. In fact, Margaret's never been hot or cold, except for saunas and ski resorts. See, hardship is entertainment, a luxury she pays for. Hunger is just a strategy for fitting Gucci dresses. When I tell her I lived out of my car, Margaret totally gets it because she loves camping too. Margaret has no idea how much it costs to be poor. Margaret can pay to go anywhere, but she'll only ever be a tourist here, hashtagging cultural enlightenment, poverty, a prop for her Instagram photos, wearing as a badge of honor the things we carry like a limp. Then Margaret can fly from this. I can't. Margaret marvels at the bullet holes in Belfast, at the refugees huddled in Munich, at the gypsy beggars in Paris, swears she's never seen anything like it in America. Try stamping your passport in Pine Hills. Margaret frowns when I say universal health care and living wages, says the taxes would be way too high, her Chanel purse string suddenly tight as a noose. I ask her how to fix the world. She says people just need to be nice to one another. She says I must learn to be grateful for the things I've been granted, as if everything she had was earned, like it wasn't built on the backs of others, as if we're too far above sea level to spy exploitation on the horizon. Margaret asks why I'm such a bitch all the time, because Margaret, you're nice, is pie stuffed with razors, ground glass rock candy, and mercury lollipops. You're nice is sugar-coated genocide, salt and sour swept under rug. You're nice is saccharine-hued glasses, modern day, let them eat cake. Margaret, you're nice is a ransom I cannot afford to pay. Thank you.